Hey, welcome to Guns and Ammo's Buzz Podcast. I'm Keith Wood. I'm here with my friend Tom Beckstrand. Tom is the rifle and optics editor of Guns and Ammo magazine. We work together, become pretty good friends, and we're going to talk precision rifles today. And Tom is probably the most passionate guy I know on that subject, so I wanted to bring him in. I dabble in that, but Tom lives in that space, and we got a chance a couple weeks ago here to shoot the 2025 Hornady Precision Rifle Series match together. And you had, to me, a really interesting rig and shot very well in the match. I wanted to take a deeper dive into that. But tell us a little bit about, for those that aren't familiar with the series, like, where does the Hornady match stand in the PRS world? What's so big about it?
Yeah, so I mean, I call it the Hornady PRS match, but I think it's like the Hornady PRC match. But
That's right. The
it's
Hornady
run.
Precision Rifle Challenge. I have the,
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's it. But it's a PRS match. It's kind of run by George Gardner and Brian Sykes. George Gardner, I mean, he was making precision rifles long before they were cool. I think he started making them in the '90s. So he saw like all of the tactical matches that they did back then. When I started shooting PRS back in the day, he was there. So George has been there for the whole pull. What I like about that match is George has seen everything. And so he's kind of built this match to be, it's not a meatball match. Like, you're not going to show up and like have a great match if you haven't put in a ton of time preparing. And so I just like the sheer brutality of it. George he knows all the gamerisms. And he removes a lot of those. Most PRS matches you go to, the world is a barricade. Get a 20 plus pound six something and balance it on the barricade and shoot as fast as you can. George doesn't do that. Like, the stages are different, the target distances are far, the steel's small, but you're going to see a good, realistic blend of positional shooting instead of just pure game. Everything is a barricade. And then, so, I just like the brutality of the match. It brings all of the best shooters in the United States. I kind of call it like the mini finale. I mean, you've got Dave Preston and Ken Sanoski that are there from Pennsylvania, Ohio. You got all the Oklahoma boys are there. You got all the shooters from out west. So it's everybody comes from all over the country, kind of converges on this match. Um, and the conditions are really difficult. Winds are switchy. I mean, you'll have everything from no wind to, what was it, gusting up to like somewhere in the 20s or 30s. I mean, it was getting
Yep.
up there,
Yep.
definitely in the
First
20s.
afternoon. Yep.
Yes. And then there's the dust that gets into everything. And so, you know, I to me, that match shows this is what's possible right now in the world of precision rifle shooting. It's a great place to go if you just want to see the magic. Be prepared to eat humble pie unless you're prepping hard and ready for it. But that's what I like about that match. Difficulty, difficult conditions, run by a pro, in one of the best places you could possibly hold a match.
Yeah, and it was, as you well know, my first PRS match. Right? I've been shooting rifles a long time,
Yeah.
but new to
Yeah.
this game. And the game is a
I couldn't
game, and
believe
it's
you.
good.
I still can't believe you did that. Like that. Holy cow! Congratulations. Everything is easier after
Didn't come in
that.
last. It was almost like
No.
saying, "Hey, you have a car. Come race at Talladega." Like a regular
Right.
car, right? You own a vehicle.
Right.
Like you said, humbling. The learning curve was steep, but I learned a ton and and came away a full crack addict for that
Yeah.
world. So
Yeah.
it was fantastic. And to give folks a context, it's a giant piece of private land in Utah, right on the Wyoming border. Basically, the entire match is up and down the sides of one big long ridge. So it's
Mhm.
physically you're sort of hiking as you go between stages. You're at altitude,
Right.
what, 6,800 feet roughly, something like that.
Somewhere right around there. Yeah.
So there are some environmentals, like you said, crazy winds. Um,
Hmm.
in my experience, difficult targets to sometimes see because they're in the rocks and the sage. And is that target
Right.
on this stage or the next stage because they're so far away? And
Right.
I really will get into that, but I had some challenges mixing up getting targets out of sequence and things like that. I hit a lot of targets that didn't count. That was the
Right.
worst, most frustrating part, right? And for folks to understand my math, the long target was 1,372 yards,
Yeah.
and
Correct.
not huge, not a huge target. And then the
No.
average target, not the average shot, but the average target was right around 532, I think, if my math is correct. So
That close. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and only
Yeah.
because there were some of those 299 real small. The Pelicans were really small, but they're relatively close and things like that.
Yeah. And the
So
prairie
so
dogs,
deceiving number.
you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
tiny
Yeah.
tiny targets at closer distances, so deceiving.
Right.
Um, but all that being said, we'll dive into the match. We'll dive into your setup, which I think is really important.
Okay.
But for folks not familiar with your background, I want people to understand why should we listen to you? Why is this important? Walk me through. You grew up in rural Nevada, correct?
Yep. Small town Nevada, not an uncommon story for anybody growing up in a small town. Not a lot to do. So, I mean, I've always loved shooting rifles, so did a lot of that. And then, went to college and then got into the military.
Went to
And
went
in
to
college,
went to
what's that?
West Point. You didn't just go
Oh,
to
what,
yeah.
went to West Point and shot competitive pistol there. Small bore my first year, and then combat pistol my sophomore and junior year. So I was a
And that's
competitive
when you
pistol
met Kyle
pistol
Lamb,
shooter.
correct?
Correct. At a inter academy service match not far from Fort Bragg, and and that left an impression. And that would have been mid '90s, mid late '90s, like '95, '96, I think. And then enjoyed shooting competitively, got into the military, and then life got busy. I was an infantry officer, and then went to selection and became a special forces officer. And it wasn't until I was on a special forces team. That was my second special forces team. I was the sniper team leader. Um, and when I had started to shoot competitively, there was a guy on the team that became a really great friend. And he's like, "Hey, let's go shoot the Army Small Arms Championship." And I was like, "Well, what's that?" So we went and shot it. And I did well on the combat pistol. That's the only one I shot, or I think we might have both shot long range. We did. We shot the 1,000 yard match, and I shot combat pistol 1,000 yard. I didn't, you know, um, hadn't done didn't do very well. And then, but the pistol I did, and that kind of reignited the competitive shooting, uh, fire in me. The next trip downrange, it was tongue wind. He was killed on that trip. And then I went to the match again the next year, and shot the long range portion again. And then I got out of the army and went quiet for a couple of years, and then started shooting. Heard about this thing called PRS about 2013, and that's I was like, hey, I kind of miss it. So that's when I got back into it. But
So let's
but
put
yeah, the
let's
training. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
So you show up at the PRS guy. Let's kind of. I know you probably don't want to brag on yourself, but West Point grad, infantry officer, special forces officer, SIF team leader, right? Which is Commanders in
Right.
Extremis
So
Force, which is the direct action kind of unit within special forces.
right, and to get into that unit, there's an 8 week. It's called Sephardic back then. It's basically like a CQB course. 8 weeks. We started with 56. We had 32 graduate. It's a gentleman's course, but really high standards. It's all carbine and pistol. And I mean, ways that you get kicked out or um, shoot a target that you shoot the hostage. Don't shoot a target that you should have shot. Like that's a big one. You can't just hide in the back of the stack and not shoot your gun. Like they'll sniff that out and you're out of there. But that was all carbine pistol, really intense. But that qualifies you go to the SIF. Well, when I got to the SIF, I walk in the door and they're like, hey, assault team leader, head over there. Well, the other troop was getting ready to leave and there was no team leader on the sniper team. And I was a single guy at the time. And I was like, I kind of don't want to hang out at Fort Bragg for 6 months just doing training. I was like, especially when they're about to head over to Iraq. So I was like, hey, they're short. Why don't you put me on the sniper team over there? Plus, deep down inside, I'm a rifle nerd. Um, and so my company commander was like, all right. So he put me on the sniper team, went over for my first trip. And then when I came back, I went to the Marine Corps Scout Sniper Advanced course because I'd been doing team training and everything else. And one of my teammates called up to the Marine Corps and was like, the guy that Robbie Reedsma, who now works for HK, super good dude, called up Robbie Reedsma and he was like, hey, man, got a sniper team leader down here. We want to want to get him trained, formally trained other than just team training. And Robbie asked a few questions and he's like, we'll put him in the advanced course. So I went up to the advanced course and it was me, a Dutch commando and 16, you know, pretty experienced Marine Corps Scout snipers. And that program, I think, was right around 2 months long. And that one was, Marines are great on field craft and marks. Like the Marine Corps, that left such a positive impression on me about the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps Scout Sniper community, man. Like I told them all, I said, when you get tired of being mistreated by the Marine Corps, come on down to Fort Bragg. We'll have you talk to a Special Forces recruiter. You can stay on a team and shoot your gun for as long as your entire career if you want. When the Marine Corps says you have to leave and you got to go be a recruiter and you don't want to, come see us. And a lot of guys actually do that from the Marine Corps.
Yeah, nobody seems to leave other services to go to the Marine Corps, but there are a lot of Marines that go on to other services. Just as an outside observer, I've noticed that. Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
You got all this experience. You end up with a price on your head in Afghanistan, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that was actually before the sniper team leader days. That was when I was on a UW team. And that one, I mean, we've got a 5-episode docuseries that we're working on. That's a little more of a complicated story.
Sure.
But kind of wild, and all verified. My big thing is like, if you're going to step forward with an amazing story, my number one question to you is, were you all by yourself when this happened? And the answer is always no. And then the question is, well, why are you alone when you're telling me the story? Like, if you're going to step out in public with a crazy story, like, you better bring some of your teammates with you. And that's what we're doing. We got a lot of other guys on the team there, but
well, and that's why I'm drawing this out of you, because you're not the kind of guy who's going to toot your own horn. So that's my job to
well, it's so tiresome, right?
Squeak a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many guys? Go ahead.
Could I still collect on that bounty by any chance? Just curious, just hypothetically.
Well, every once in a while, when the old lady's really annoyed, she's like, but I don't.
How much was that?
Yeah. Man, yeah, 200K, 200,000. Taliban. I don't think they'll pay. The guy that put it on me died. He was killed on a joint operation. Same year I got out of the army, 2007. Mullah Dadullah. He was the military commander of the Taliban at the time.
Okay. So moving forward, now you're let's just say highly experienced military, sniper, right? A lot of 4 deployments, I believe, right? At a time where things were very hot.
Yeah, there's a lot of wars going on, a lot of shooting, for sure.
So then you come out and now you're walking into this competitive shooting thing, probably thinking you're going to just clean house, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember my first PRS match. We were filming a TV show with Beret. And so I was shooting, a Tika 223 with a couple of 5-round mags and a 10-round mag. And I was like, stand back, fellas. Like, I got this. And we just got straight up manhandled. And I was squatted with a guy named Wade Studeville, and Dustin, Dustin and his dad from Louisiana. It was the OG crowd that started the PRS. I think this was like the second year of the PRS. And I became friends with Wade, and that dude is brilliant. He's one of the, like, when I say the Oklahoma boys, like that's the crew, right? Like they're and
he's one of the premier rifle builders out there in that world.
Right. Studeville Precision, him and Tate Streeter are Impact and Studeville Precision. And so like Impact Actions that are all over the PRS. Like they've been around forever. And so I was like, man, I can really dig on this. And so 14 and 15 and 16, I started shooting matches. And like I went to the finale in 15 and the finale in 16. And then, life catches up with all of us. I still love it, but in order to really do well, like you have to be putting in the time, every week to be really successful. And, like between work, I got a couple of jobs, I got a wife, I got a couple of kids, I got some church stuff that I like to do. And it's just, there's only so much of me to go around. Like when the kids are empty nesters, I'll get back to it. I'll be shooting the old man category then, but like the love is never going to go away.
Yeah, no. And despite all that, you shot extremely well in the Hornady PRC match.
Right. Correct myself. Well, for me, that was a good, I was 166. I think I was 68. Right. So that match, if you can, and like I had, Swift Creek, Gray Sloan, I had him cut me a 25 Creed barrel. I had Seth send me a couple of cases of ammo. I had 60 rounds on the barrel when I showed up, which is why I chronoed at the start of day two. I was like, I think
Yep.
my barrel might be speeding up.
Hmm.
It didn't. And and so it was zero. It was two trips to range, 1 to 0. The second trip I trued up, and then throw your stuff in a box and go shoot the match. And like when you do that for a match like that, prepare to get manhandled. So I was pretty happy with where I finished for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a great squad of guys, good shooters and great people. Everybody was really
Yeah,
good about sharing
yeah,
information. I mean, not only to the new guy, but across. Hey, I was
right.
holding this mill call on the wind. I mean, it was everybody. We were kind of all in it
Every
together. Yeah.
and I wish people would understand, like when you genuinely share information with your squad, you're all gonna shoot better.
Right.
But guys sometimes will be like, no, no, they'll give you bogus win calls. They'll play games because they
Right.
want to win. But if you really help each other, like rising tide lifts all boats. Like you're all going to shoot better if you share. So
Yeah. We
that
we
squad was
were
awesome.
we were squad two. We were right behind squad one. The,
Right.
the winner was Austin was in squad one. So oftentimes we
Right.
would show up at a stage and those guys were still shooting. Here are the guys who were gonna
Right.
win, and they would readily share information,
Everything.
with anybody
Yeah.
who listened. Right? You like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you my one call. Try to outshoot me. We'll see. And
Right.
for
Well,
me,
and our squad was doing. Oh, go ahead.
I would say I did this with USPSA when I was young and kicked the tires on it
Hmm.
and was sort of intimidated to show up. Finally showed up. Everybody was super welcoming. I shot great, got really
Yeah.
good at it, had kids and quit. Now I kicked the tires in the PRS world for years, watching it,
Yeah.
even covering matches for magazines and things like that, but was sort of intimidated to jump into it. Kind of
Yeah.
get dragged into this one by the Hornady guys. Borrow a gun,
You're welcome.
like for just show up and I walked into it with the attitude, this is a learning experience. I'm taking this as a 2-day precision rifle class with a couple guys that I like hanging out with, right? I'm dragging
Yeah.
my 11-year-old son with me on the course who
Right.
seemed to have sort of a good time. Um,
Yeah.
and halfway through the first day, I'm like, why have I waited so long to do this? This is the most welcoming
Yeah.
environment imaginable, right? You could show up with no gun. Somebody would hand
Yeah.
you a gun, hand you their bag, give you ammo,
Yeah.
help you get in
Yeah.
position. It was just a great experience. So let's dive into your
Yeah.
gun.
Okay.
So Accuracy International.
Yes. And
I didn't.
why actually international?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
why? Let's say I didn't see a lot of those in the match.
Um, No, no, but like these are, my sniper roots, right? Like those, like I'm never gonna give up. Action International builds sniper rifles. This is the ATXC. This will match the rifle I was shooting in the match. When it comes to precision rifles, especially when you're going to go out and be in difficult conditions, if I'm buying a plane ticket and a rental car and a hotel room, I get real picky about what I fly with. And so when it comes to rifles, I pick them based off first the magazine. So this is the AX, AW, but it's a double stack steel box because it feeds well off a 3 lug action. So like in all of my years, like when I started shooting PRS, I started with AI. I have never had one single feeding failure ever since like 2013. I think 2014 is when I started shooting AI. And that matters to me. Like it feeds, like I just get real picky about stuff, right? Like AICS mags are a little janky. You got to kind of hoss around in. Like you can tune them up and everything, but then you put that mag in a different rifle. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Like these, they just always work. And tilt the follower, pull it out, you wipe it out. It's from a maintenance perspective, especially on a match like that. Like maintenance has to be easy. So I
Mhm.
start with a magazine, and then the next thing I like about AI is action screw engagement. Like there's 5 action screws in that thing, and all of them are more than 2 times the diameter of the fastener, so those action screws don't come loose. Um, Most guys are shooting Remington 700s in some kind of chassis. You've got just a tiny amount of thread engagement, action screw to receiver. And as long as you stay on top of it and torque them, you're probably going to be okay. If you don't bed that receiver into the chassis, you will get the occasional flyer. Guys will be like, well, you don't need to bed it. And they'll argue and scream. Okay, you don't have to. I would, especially for like ELR matches. You'll notice the flyers will go away if you bed, and if you only got to bed one, bed the rear action screw around the tang. That's the most helpful. That'll give you about 80% of your performance. but I don't have to bet it. I don't check action screws. There's 5 action screws. It's never going to move. These things have been tested and tested and tested, filtered by militaries the world over. Like the day two, one of the Aaron, and he was, I think he's placed 15th in that match in years previous. He came up to me and he's like, dude, your rifle yesterday looked like trash because the wind's blowing. And I was like, yeah. And it's like, but it just keeps going. And I mean, I'm not trying to abuse my equipment, but it's just the conditions we were in. And I never worry about the rifle choking. Like I've just seen them suffer. Like I don't like to abuse my equipment, but sometimes you don't have a choice.
You
And I've
couldn't
seen those
you couldn't
things.
protect it in those conditions.
No,
25-mile-an-hour winds
you
with that
can't.
dust, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's going to get
Yeah,
dirty. There's nothing you
yeah.
can do
We
about it. And
we
and
joked
so for me,
about the
it's a peace of
barrels
mind
getting
thing.
lapped by the dust as
Yes.
the rounds are going
Yeah,
through the.
and everything
Yeah,
getting blown out the muzzle. So
yeah.
that's why I'm partial, and I like this one because it's got Arca rail integrated into it. Normally I got a Thunder Beast bipod up here. Um, Big fan of that's a Magnus S race ready with the SR mount. I like SR mounts. It's secondary retention just because I don't like even the idea of my suppressor coming loose. Um, and that one, it's impossible for it to come loose. So it's just like, experiences. Like I don't like to fuss and worry about my rifle. So I've just learned to pick equipment that I'm like, hey, you can give me whatever environmental conditions you want, or we can be as abusive as you want, and I'll be the last man standing when it comes to my rifle feeding and firing.
You can worry about
So
the
that's why
shooting
I picked this one. Yeah, I just worry about shooting. And then,
with the wind.
let's see, spur mount. I like the spur mount because it's got the level integrated into the back. It does,
Mhm.
there's nothing janky hanging off the side. Night Force 7 to 35. Shot a lot of them. I really like. They're really durable. Image quality is really
What
good, and I love the field of view.
what reticle do you have in there?
I think that one's a Mill XT,
Okay,
which is
first local plane,
kind of a
obviously.
yeah, first focal for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of a mag hog. Most of that match I was somewhere between 15 and 20. Sometimes even a little over 20, depending. And guys will put weights on things and bounce, and I'm like, I didn't put any weights on it. Like, to me, that's just, if I was getting serious and putting the prep in, I would totally do all that. But I go because I want to see what's possible in the world of precision rifle. I like testing me and my equipment, just to see if there's ever going to be like I've never been able to make the rifle choke. So I go for different reasons. I mean, I want to do well, don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I don't have the time to, I choose not to devote the time to do all of the prep work required to like figure out where I'm putting my weights and all that other stuff.
Mhm. Full gamer. Talk to me. I
Yeah.
mean, I asked you about this during the match, and I was very appreciative of the fact that you were using a suppressor, and we would
Yeah.
get to the
Yeah.
point in our squad where you and maybe the next two guys even had suppressors. And I tell my son, okay, we can take our ear pro off, and you give your ears a little break.
Right. And just chill.
Why
Yeah.
why a suppressor versus a break?
Um, so if you've ever, I realized this years ago. I was at a ELR match where we were all shooting 30 cal magnums, 300 PRCs, and everybody in the squad had suppressors. And end of day one, we were all out to dinner together, and one of the guys said, "Hey, does anybody have a headache?" And we all look around. We're like, "No." First time that's ever happened. We were like, "Oh." And what you don't realize is when you're shooting a muzzle brake, it's people think like, "Oh, recoil, recoil, recoil." Well, there's two types of recoil. There's a recoil that comes off the butt pad, which a muzzle brake's going to get rid of that. But then there's a recoil that comes from, I call it getting, like, it's like a punch in the brain, right? Like every time you touch off a rifle with a muzzle brake, you're soaking up some of that concussion. And it's like a little jab to your brain. Now, if you've had traumatic brain injuries, you've been exposed to overpressure, interior breaching charges, explosions, stuff like that, you'll find in a war zone. Like I get headaches a lot and they're common. And so like I refuse to shoot without a suppressor if I have even the tiniest choice. Because it's so much more enjoyable. Do I have maybe fractionally more recoil than if I was running some kind of ridiculous muzzle brake? Yeah, probably. But I'm not getting punched in the head every time I touch that thing off, and people don't realize that. And people will talk about, oh, at the end of the match, I'm so tired. And at the end of day one, I've got a headache. Yeah, that's called a traumatic brain injury. Like it
Mhm.
sounds super scary. It's not, but it's not healthy. You're getting
Right.
jabbed. You're choosing to jab yourself in the brain repeatedly. Like Hey, what's that going to look like in 20 years? I don't know, and neither does anybody else. I'll shoot suppressed, thank you,
It's an
and
easy
not worry
fix.
about it. Easy fix.
Yeah. And
For me, it's a health
if you're
thing.
at
Totally.
well, if you're putting yourself at some fractional disadvantage, like you said, you're not doing this for a living. You're not doing it week in and week
Yeah.
out. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And the trade-off for your health is not there.
Yeah. And it's just
Yeah.
so much more enjoyable. Like you go
Yeah.
put some kind of outrageous muzzle brake on your rifle and go shoot groups for a couple hours. And then at the end of 2 hours, you'll be like, man, I'm tired. And that kind of, I don't, this sucks. Put a suppressor on and shoot for a couple hours. Like it's going to get hot. You have to fight mirage and everything else. But at the end of it, like you're going to feel a lot better. Like you spend long days at the range, muzzle brake versus suppressor, you'll see for yourself. Suppressor is tremendously more comfortable.
Yeah. As much as you and I shoot testing guns and just
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
game changer. And when a gun doesn't,
Yeah.
when I can't put one on there,
Oh, I get
you know,
salty. I'm like,
yeah,
man. I like
give me
old
some,
man yells at clouds. Like that's me, man.
right. So that gun's chambered in 25 Creedmoor,
Yep.
correct? So 25,
20.
25.
Yep.
You and I are both shot the match with the 25. You got a 24-inch
Yep.
barrel. Tell me
Yep.
about your thoughts on that cartridge generally, and then in the match in that
So
contest.
that was to me like, like before you have an opinion, you got to get some experience with it. And that was one of my prime reasons for wanting to take 25 Creed to that match. Is I was like, I know it's going to be a tough match, and I'm going to shoot a couple hundred rounds of that. And so what what I walked away with is, it's not lost on me. That's the best finish I've ever had. Um, and you look for things like, can I spot impact at a 300-yard target with a miss, off of some type of positional? And I can't remember not seeing something through the scope, even without the weights, even without all the weirdo gamer stuff, even with a suppressor. I can't remember not being able to see what was going on through the scope when I was shooting it. So it tells me recoil wise, it's probably so close to a 6.5 Creed that it's not worth talking about, but I shoot a lot of 6.5 Creed. I think maybe it might be a hair less recoil, but like all the math nerds are going to come out and say that's impossible, or it's 5%, like whatever.
Right.
Um, but what I like about it is, with the 134, you got the BC is great, right? And instead of like a 2730, I'm shooting 2,800 feet per second. So I'd have to go back and double check. I've got a better BC than the 140 from a 6.5 Creed, and I've got 70 more feet per second. So, what that allows me to do is I don't have to be precisely like, if I got a wind hold that's on the line that's close but successful with a 25 Creed, there's a chance that's a miss with a 6.5. And so, well, why not 6 Creed? Well, barrel life's garbage on a 6 Creed in a PRS match. Like, you're going to get 1,300 rounds out of a 6 Creed, and it's time to rebarrel. 6.5 Creed shooting PRS, I say 2,500. I bet a 25 Creed you're right around 2,000, maybe 2,200 rounds, which for me is like is a sweet spot. And then
And
if you go
that's
up to
10
the
matches
138,
versus 5, to
yeah,
put it in context,
yeah,
right? That's twice as
yeah.
many matches, probably.
Oh yeah, it was 6 Creed,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and then when you go up to the 138 A tip, you've got a BC that's almost identical to the 153 6.5 A tip. But now at a 138, you're getting the muzzle velocity of a 140 with the BC of a 153, and you got to give up a little bit of barrel life. Well, son, like I'm really interested now. So
Yeah.
like you run the numbers and the math and think about it. Like I've loved the 6.5 Creed, since 2014. That's what I've always shot in PRS matches, even when everybody was doing weird stuff and changing cartridges all the time. I've been really loyal to 6.5 Creed, but I think 25 Creed's my new jam. Not just because it's new, but man, I like a lot of things about it.
And I noticed, you had a 24-inch barrel, I had a 26, so I had a slight
Yeah.
velocity advantage. And sometimes, I mean, that would come out in the math. We're comparing notes,
Oh
and
yeah.
sometimes
Our
I had a
holds would be a
slightly
little
different
bit
hold,
different
right?
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I noticed, and Neil there were three of us shooting 25 Creeds, right?
Yep.
And just across the course of 20 stages, our win holds were noticeably smaller than pretty much everybody else in our squad.
Yeah. Everybody
It
shooting the
was shooting
baby
a mix of
sixes.
6.5s and yeah,
Yeah.
6 arcs,
Yeah.
6.5.
Shooting
It was a
six
little a
Thatchers,
mix of
six
everything.
arcs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
noticeable. I mean, without digging into the math, it's like I'm holding 0.3, you're holding 0.5. That matters, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and in years previous at that match, that's kind of where you saw the rise of the 153 tip loaded in the 6.5 Creed, because the BC's great. It's slow, but you've got your dope for your elevation. The biggie is the wind. And so, there's been a lot of guys win that match with a 153 tip out of a 6.5 Creed. And now it's like, Neil Davies, VP of marketing at Hornady, he was shooting 138 tips. So now he's got the same BC as that 153, but he's got all the muzzle velocity.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
setup is probably the best, probably
For that
go-to
match.
option possible right now for that match,
Yeah.
and probably for NRL
Yeah.
Hunter as well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you got
Right?
the coin and you can do it, yeah, 138 tips out of a 25 Creed would be my top pick for NRL Hunter for sure, and definitely for that Hornady match. Now you get to some of the PRS matches on the East Coast, I might be shooting a 22 arc and a 90 grain A tip, frankly,
Right.
right? It's like a little
Different
powder
game.
puff, like different game. Steel's
Mhm.
closer. Wins are less switchy usually. It's still a PRS match, but those change based off where you're shooting in the country. But
Yeah.
out west in NRL Hunter, 100%, 138 tip out of 25 Creed. That's my opinion.
Well, your opinion matters to me.
Yeah.
So
Well, I always, whenever I say that's my opinion, I always think of like, what is it? Jeff Bridges, The Dude Abides,
yeah,
The Big
that's my opinion,
Lebowski.
dude.
Yeah, well, that's like your opinion, man.
Right. You finished about 100 positions further up than I did, so your opinion matters to me. I'm gonna listen to you. I asked you a lot of questions during the match. You're on a tripod, so really right stuff.
Yeah.
What's the model?
That's the TF34, TFCT 34 anvil head bag. It's still got the color. This is the waxed canvas medium game changer heavy fill. This is kind of like, if you can only
Armageddon
have
gear.
one, have this one. Armageddon
I had
gear.
mine
Yep.
ordered
And people will
before I
say
drove
like,
home from the match.
yeah, people will be like, oh, snipers would never deploy with that. Well, they'll go with the light fill, but 100% guys are deploying with these things now. And I'll go hunting with one. I mean, you and I have been on hunts. You've seen me, that exact bag with a light fill. Like, I got a place to sit. I got a pillow if it's nap 30, and it allows me
Right.
to do all my positional shooting, rifle shooting stuff, which you learn at these types of matches. So yeah. But yeah,
I borrowed
Armageddon gear.
yours. I
Yeah.
borrowed your bag to kill a mule deer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
100%. Yeah.
And so let's see what else we got. But yeah, that's the scope, the mount, the rifle, the barrel, and really, like, my question to you is, was it as gear intensive as you thought it was going to be?
Yes and no. Less rifle,
Yeah.
more interface between the rifle and the bag and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was a big deal. The getting into position, finding the targets, those basic things that I hadn't practiced for,
Right.
because
Yeah.
without going into the whole story, I found out I was shooting the match 2 or 3 weeks before it happened.
Right.
So it was like, hey, just show up, and I did. I brought
Yeah.
Ear Pro, I think, and a sandwich.
Yeah.
So great. Seth Swerzik and Hornady did an awesome job of
Oh, Seth's the best.
aiding me,
Yeah.
had everything set up for me, had the gun zeroed, had tested it, plenty of ammo. He took good care of me and shot well in the match, as dragging
Oh,
me
yeah.
along, and still had a great match. So great human being. Those guys did an awesome job putting on a match. My
Yeah.
takeaways were, it's different than other types of shooting, just like any other game is different, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm used to shooting more hunting style, a little more recoil. I'm more into the gun.
Right.
Getting on the gun in this world is moving the gun around so much you can't see the target, right? So it's
Right.
you're almost not touching the gun. A lot of free recoil
Yes.
shooting, which is not something I do a lot of. So that was an adjustment.
Right.
I think for folks looking to, as a rank amateur, don't take what I said with a grain of salt, but a 22, a precision style 22, and maybe a step ladder and a medium bag, practicing getting
Yep.
into a lot of positions, even dry firing.
Yeah.
I wasn't
For sure.
I wasn't missing because I wasn't breaking the shot correctly. It was either a bad wing call or a bad position. So the
Yes.
dry firing would
And
have.
Yeah, and that's a learning curve thing. You get in a position that sucks, and you're like, no, I'm gonna make this work, and because the clock's ticking, you only got so many seconds. Um, and a lot of it, I remember there's a couple of stages. I was like, all right, you see how the ground comes up, so pay attention to
Hmm.
where the guy's shooting in front of you. If he's in the prone, like always look at the guy that's shooting. I'll start 2 or 3 guys in front of me and watch bipod height because I don't want to be monkeying with bipod height on the clock.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, so there's, but that's experience, right? Of just
Yeah.
figuring out like what positions I know not to even try because I already know it's gonna suck versus, hey, I got a good chance of making that one work.
Yeah.
So
Or
always
that
start
guy's
there.
6'5". He can go right over the
Yeah,
top of that barricade. I've got to do
yeah.
something
I
different.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Um, your advice for someone who's, thinking about getting into this world, maybe doesn't want to spend $20,000 on a setup. What's the easiest path to just getting there?
So easiest path to getting there is figure out like let's start with the rifle that you do have. And odds are if you got a hunting rifle, you're probably a pretty good fit for NRL hunter. And you can start getting into, you know, you don't need a really expensive tripod. The thing, go shoot a match, right? Like that's the
Hmm.
biggie is just go, like you can talk about it. You're going to surf the internet. The internet, about 90% of what's on the internet's garbage. And you got to sift through it to find the 10 that's not. The fastest way there is go shoot a match. Don't go watch a match. Um, Go shoot one. And because I understand the temptation. Well, I want to see it done. Nope. Just, watch a couple of YouTubers that are say like, hey, I shoot, PRS matches and here's what you need. Surf the internet for that. Figure out like a little bit of gear. But really, NRL hunter, you could go with a hunting rifle, a cheap tripod, a plate and one of these bags and some binos, and you're there. And
Right.
but what'll happen? So and then if you got rifles where, if you're a little bit of a rifle nerd, you got precision rifles or things with integrated ARCA and they're a little heavier, then go shoot PRS.
A
And
one day
just
match.
understand that you're a 1 day match. Yep, always start with the 1 day matches. Um, and just go with the attitude of like, hey, I'm just going to see what's going on and do the best I can. And what'll happen is you'll start to learn really quickly, much faster than you will any other way. Like if you want to learn if you want to become a better rifleman quickly, you have to go compete. Which is why, like, the best snipers in the military are out there shooting. They're either shooting field matches, which like those are like the outlaw matches. There's team matches. There's all kinds of precision rifle matches,
Hmm.
or they'll shoot NRL hunter, or they'll shoot PRS, or they'll shoot all of them. And I'm still talk to the friends of mine. We're getting old. I'm real old, and they're getting old. But um, your military snipers recognize the value of what's combat, get stable and get hits fast. What's competitive shooting, get stable and get hits fast. Like there are some differences in equipment, but
Hmm.
the principles are definitely carry over.
And that clock adding a little bit of stress.
A little bit of stress, yep. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no substitute for when the target shoots back, but like let's not
Sure.
experiment with that. Like
Well,
it should be
I look at
avoided.
it. Yeah, that's hard to practice, but I look at it lower consequence. But I look at it as a hunter, right? Who
Yes, yeah.
nobody's gonna shoot
I
at
can
me unless. But I spent
no.
$8,000 on a hunt. I want to be successful.
That's the
So
thing is like people will spend, like if you're getting on an airplane to go do anything with a rifle, hey, you can become a lot better with it close to home shooting 1 day matches. Like you should
mhm,
consider that. And if you're
yeah,
buying a plane ticket, you got enough money for like a one trick pod. Like you got to have a couple, maybe, like that'll become expenses over time. But like you can start to figure out because the reality is, I got a Thunder Beast bipod, I got a triple pole sky pod, a tripod, a gamer plate, and a couple of bags. And in 10 years of shooting matches, that's all you need. Like you don't
right.
have to buy it all at once. You can ease into it. But what I've learned is if you got a handful of shooting aids, you can build all kinds of shooting positions and get stable. And that's going to benefit you no matter what you're doing. You're ringing
Right.
steel, you're hunting, it's better across the board. You're going to learn how to
And you
use a
can
ballistic
practice
calculator.
and you can practice those at home for free. You can grab your shooting
Yeah.
aids, set up in your living
Yep.
room, wherever, dry
And
fire.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
put on a great
Um,
movie and have
yeah.
a great time.
And for me, as I walked away from this wanting to do more of it, but not super attracted to the 25-pound gamer rifle, right?
Right.
Because that's so different from what I want to be doing most of the time.
Right.
That and PRS has kind of seen that and has created this sportsman division, which
Right.
is 6.5 Creedmoor only. I believe a
Yep.
13-pound weight limit on the gun. That's with the mag, which
Right.
overlaps pretty
And
well with
scope
and scope and
and
everything.
bipod. Yeah.
Everything that you're going to attach to the gun, not a bag and not
Yep.
a tripod, but everything is permanently
Right.
connected to the gun for the match. 13
Right.
pounds, which overlaps. My understanding is the NRL Hunter, one of their divisions, is 12 pounds, but without the mag. So we're probably talking the same
Yeah.
category here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's open light. NRL
yeah.
Hunter open heavy 16 pounds. So like what you'll
Okay.
find is if you're going to keep it at 12 pounds, like that's a lot of carbon fiber. You're going to go with
Mhm.
lightweight actions. Like in order to get full on, like the scope, the mount, all of it, 12 pounds and under. Yeah.
And I'm
If you want a good
in the
stock, like it's going to be expensive. So if you're like, man, I want to shoot NRL, shoot open hunter heavy, 16 pounds, you can get there with almost anything. And it's, you won't
or
go
shoot their
broke getting all the
factory or
lightweight
shoot
stuff.
their factory rifle.
Or shoot the factory class. Yep.
Yeah, right. Which you can shoot factory ammo, which is I think you automatically make power factor if you're shooting factory ammo.
Yep.
So yeah, and there's also a production division in PRS where guys can show up with
Yep.
an off the shelf rifle, and there are price limits.
Yep. Yep.
So the Ruger Precision Rifle is really popular in that
Yes.
category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
So
rifle launched that category personally.
pretty much, yeah. And we had a guy in our
Yeah.
squad shooting that rifle.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's a good shooter
yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. So anything else you want to add in the context of PRS,
No,
that gun,
no, man. Other than
anything
like, go ahead.
anything you'll do differently on that gun going forward? Anything you want to swap?
I mean, I'm always like, that's the gun writer thing. You've always got to, something's got to be different, right? Like I shot 25 Creed this year. If I was going to just get serious about shooting PRS, I would stay with 25 Creed. But next year, I'll probably shoot a different cartridge. I'll probably like maybe it'll be a different scope. There's a new like so that's why I'm always monkeying with gear. It's because that's part
Mhm.
of my job. But
Yep.
I think what I love about matches, man, is like we had a blast. And anybody watching this, I'm telling you right now, go with a buddy. And if you don't have any buddies, like you'll make friends. Um, it's just a ton of fun. You're going to
Yep.
get better at something you love and you're going to have a great time doing it.
And
So
you spend
why would you not?
if you're a gun guy, and if you're watching this, you probably are, or gun gal, whatever. Um, you love this stuff. You breathe this stuff. There are probably a limited number of people in your life you can talk to who care as much about it as you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know about anybody else. I'll speak for
Yeah.
myself. My wife doesn't
Yeah.
care anything about
Yeah.
this. My
Same.
kids don't. My kids, one sort of cares, but is
Yeah.
11, so he's figuring it out,
They'll
right?
get there. Yeah.
But when you get to that match, you're immersed in people who also live and breathe that same world, speak the
Yeah.
same language, and probably know way more about it than you do. So get there,
Yeah.
shut your mouth, open your ears, learn, and
Yeah.
just enjoy being around people who can nerd out on how many mils this wind hold
Yeah.
is,
Well,
and
that's your
make jokes.
tribe, you know?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
make jokes about spin drift when you miss.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
So
choreo, listen,
yeah,
all that fun
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, these
Especially
are
when the
your
target's
people,
at
man.
300 yards. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 No,
These are your
I
people.
enjoyed
Come,
it.
come, come hang out with a family and have a good time.
Come do it. I would encourage anybody that is even curious to just go shoot a match. Like you said, there's a big difference between watching them and shooting them. I've done
Yeah.
both. I learned nothing by watching. I learned a ton by shooting one, and I've been shooting
Yeah.
a long time. So
Yeah.
great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. No
We'll
problem.
do this again to nerd out on some other stuff later, but this is Tom's
Yeah.
PRS setup, and we'll shoot it. We'll shoot another match again together soon. Hopefully, I'll do a little better this time.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'll hang out
Yeah,
with you anytime.
perfect. Likewise. Thanks, Tom.